In a battle between life and death, a mother will do anything to protect her child. But when the very husband or wife she trusted turns out to be the enemy, scheming to take it all, can she win? Michael, Evelyn's son, lies in a hospital bed in critical condition with no one able to guarantee his survival. But Evelyn refuses to give up. Not for a single moment does she leave her son's side. As the truth slowly unravels about the plot to kill and steal, will this mother be able to save her son and expose the villain before it's too late? Will justice truly prevail? This is the story of a family shattered by betrayal, but never losing hope, that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very last moment. Before we begin this story, let me know where you are listening from in the comments below. My name is Evelyn Brooks. I'm 66 years old, and what I'm about to tell you today will forever change the way you see your own family. The call came at 6:42 p.m., just as I had finished rinsing the teacup. The thin kang sound of porcelain meeting steel was like the first crack in ice. Mrs. Brooks, I'm calling from St. Matthew. Your son, Michael Brooks, he's in critical condition. Please come right away. The words, critical condition, dropped straight into my sternum. For 3 seconds, I forgot how to breathe. The teapot was still steaming, the vapor rising against the window like a gasp that didn't belong to anyone. I grabbed the keys and rushed out the door. The house where I had raised my son suddenly felt alien, the furniture staring back at me with the cold eyes of bad news. The wind hit my face as I stepped outside, and the old snow turned into biting, cold water. I got into the car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The city slid by like a film burning. The red brake lights stretched, water-blurred signs, and the sound of horns collided with my fear. I only knew I had to get to St. Matthew. The hospital was bright white, with the smell of disinfectant mingling with cold coffee, thick as fog. Michael Brooks, my son, I said at the reception desk. Room 412, ma'am, but I didn't hear the word but. I ran. The fluorescent-lit hallway stretched like it could go on forever, the sound of my shoes becoming a countdown. Just before the sign reading 410, 415, a memory flickered. Accident. Come if you want. Click. Sloane's voice, Michael's wife, blunt, cold as metal. A 4-second call, enough to drill a hole into my head. I reached for the doorknob of room 412 but was pulled back. Don't go in! A woman's urgent voice. I turned around. A nurse, hair pulled back, her brown eyes wide with fear. The name tag? Maya Ortiz, Trauma RN. I'm Michael's mother. I gasped. I have to. Not now, she whispered, each word clear. I could lose my job, but if you go in now, he'll die. Please, hide. A nurse would only say that if they had seen something more terrifying than losing their job. I looked into Maya's eyes. There was the fear of someone who had witnessed bad outcomes and was trying to bend the path toward a different end. I nodded. She pulled me into room 411, a storage room, and closed the door softly. Darkness mixed with the smell of bleach, rubber gloves, and cold metal. Don't make a sound. I'll be back. Whatever you hear, don't go out, Maya said, then disappeared. I leaned against the wall, clutching a tissue box like a shield made of paper. My breath echoed like wind howling through a bottle. I counted my heartbeat and let it fall into the void. In my mind, Michael flashed at every age. The baby holding my arm in Mercy's delivery room. The 7-year-old begging for cookies. The 17-year-old with a broken arm from skateboarding. The 38-year-old man who thought overtime could cure all fatigue. I had promised, when my husband passed, that this home would always be a place where my son could return. Today, that promise trembled like a stretched cord. The sound of heels echoed in the hall, slow, sharp, not belonging to a patient. I didn't need to look. Sloan. At the same time, a smooth, deep male voice, one of the kind who carries a briefcase and a fountain pen, drifted lightly through the crack in the door. I pressed my ear to the thin strip of light on the floor. "The transfer's ready." The male voice was soft, even. "Michael was supposed to sign this week. If he doesn't wake up, guardianship goes to you. We submit it before the will is amended." Sloan laughed, a dry, glassy sound. "Don't worry. He won't wake up. He's just been exhausted for the past 6 months. What a fool." The air in room 401 grew heavier. Transfer, guardianship, will. They were talking about assets, while my son lay on the line between life and death. The house I built with time, sweat, detergent smells, and dinner smells was just numbers and signatures to them. I grabbed the edge of the stainless steel shelf to keep from falling, my lips splitting open. I wanted to rush out, but Maya's words were locked in my mind. "If you go in, he'll die." So, what would my presence trigger? A signal? A legitimate witness to push the paperwork through? Or simply an excuse for her to finish what she had started? I pressed my forehead against the cold wall, hearing the steady beeping from the next room like a clock's tick, carving marks into my chest. Outside, 2 shadows slipped past the sliver of light, then fell silent. The kind of silence thick like before a storm. I sat down, hearing my heart thump like a stretched drum. While I waited, another memory sparked. The time I saw Sloan take a spoon from Michael's smoothie cup, smile faintly, say, "He's done drinking," and wash it right away. Back then, I had let it go, afraid of becoming the overbearing mother-in-law. Tonight, that thorn came back, sinking deep. I thought about Maya. I could lose my job. People only bet their careers when they've seen the signs. Maybe she had seen a powder streak on a line or an abnormal test result. Whatever it was, she chose to protect Michael and, strangely, even me, by hiding in the darkness of room 411. I squeezed the tissue box, feeling the paper press against my bones like a reminder. Stay still. The wind slipped through. The door rattled gently. Someone passed by, their shadow cutting across the sliver of light like a blade. I whispered, not out loud, "I'm here, Michael." I used to be the one who demanded everything make sense right away. At 66, I learned to believe in what had no evidence yet. Intuition. My intuition told me this wasn't an accident, and Sloan wasn't afraid. Time warped. 5 minutes? 15? I didn't know. But one thing stood firm, like a signpost tightening its screws. They weren't waiting for Michael to wake up. They were planning for him never to wake up. And I, a mother hiding in a storage room, was the only one who knew that, right now. The soft, quick sound of fabric shoes approached. It could be Maya. I didn't move, remembering her words, "Don't open the door unless she calls my name." I placed my hand on my chest, the beat pressing against my palm like a promise. "I will keep you here." The sliver of light under the door dimmed, as if the whole hallway was holding its breath. I took a deep breath, letting the cold pierce through my chest, stopping the panic that wanted to burst. And in that strange silence, a simple determination took shape, sharp as the edge of the stainless steel cart. I will wait, listen, look, and remember every detail. I won't ruin the plan to save my son over a burst of anger. If necessary, I will let the whole world think I'm cowardly, as long as Michael is still breathing." Outside, it remained silent, but the silence no longer felt as scary as before. It was like a bowstring, pulled tight, the arrow not yet released. And I, for the first time in years, realized I was also pulling the string. I was no longer the mother standing outside. I was the first witness to a crime that was breathing in the dark. I opened my eyes, staring straight at the sliver of light. This wasn't an accident, and I, Evelyn Brooks, was ready to bring this darkness into the light at any cost. I was still sitting in the darkness of room 411, clutching the tissue box tightly like a thin shield. The smell of bleach stung my eyes, the rubber scent of freshly unwrapped gloves, the cold metal of the stainless steel cart, all blended into a scent I would remember for the rest of my life. The strip of light under the door was as thin as a blade. I pressed my ear to it. The hallway breathed evenly. The sound of the gurney wheels scraping, the soft swish of fabric shoes, and then another step. Slow, steady, unhurried. The rhythm of someone who knew they were controlling the game. 2 shadows stopped right outside the door. I recognized the female voice first. Sloane. Thin, feigned softness, the end of her words lifting slightly as a habit. Accompanying her was a deep, smooth male voice, the kind that only appeared next to leather briefcases and expensive fountain pens. "The quick deed transfer is ready," the male voice said, even and smooth like reading from a script. "If Mr. Brooks does not regain capacity, guardianship will default to the family as per the list. We'll record ownership before he can amend the will." The cold English words fell on my ears like nails dropping on a tile floor. Quick deed transfer, guardianship, record, amend the will. Each word sliced through the air, splitting my memories. In my mind, I saw the polished wooden steps every Sunday, the black and white photo hanging on the mantel, the lavender smell of summer on the porch, all suddenly placed on the scale of title and deed. Sloane responded softly. "Good." He was supposed to sign this week, but kept saying he was busy with a project. If he doesn't wake up, everything transfers clean. You handle the filing. Before anyone notices, the title will have changed. She chuckled lightly. A dry, glassy sound. I gripped the edge of the stainless steel shelf to keep from collapsing. Clean transfer. They called my future with 2 cold, clean words. The male voice continued. "We'll expedite in Cook County, work with the title company to ensure there are no liens or clouds on the title. If needed, we file a temporary guardianship petition alongside the immediate transfer. Timing is everything. Once it's recorded, reversing it will be protracted and costly." Costly. I swallowed. They had already accounted for the scenario of reversal and accepted it. What do I have, other than my broken breath and a heart fraying at the edges? Sloane lowered her voice. "We're waiting on the toxicology report. If there's anything unusual, I'll delay guardianship under the pretext of an investigation. But it's unlikely. For the past 6 months, the doctors thought he was just burnt out. No red flags. 6 months. That phrase didn't fully escape here, but in my head, the old fragments collided. The spoon in Michael's smoothie cup, her polite smile, the nights my son fell asleep unusually early. I had told myself, "Don't scrutinize, Evelyn." Turns out, I had taught myself to stay silent in the face of alarms. The lawyer tapped in rhythm. We'll need signatures. If Michael can't sign, the guardian will sign on his behalf under state statute. I've arranged 2 witnesses and a notary, expedited service linked to the hospital's legal department, discreet and compliant. A cold line ran down my spine. They had witnesses, a notary, paperwork ready to submit, the path forward. The only condition left, Michael not waking up. Sloane's voice dropped, smooth like wax. When it's done, the house will be secure for me. I'll take care of it, respect his memory. Take care, respect. 2 layers of beautiful paint covering still fresh bloodstains. I wanted to jump up and tear away the veneer of politeness. But Maya's words pressed down. If you go in, he'll die. She didn't say trouble. She said die. I squeezed the tissue box until it was deformed. The paper inside rustled like a crumpled conscience. The lawyer concluded, once guardianship is in place, we act on behalf of Mr. Brooks with property transfers. I'll work with the bank to ensure liquidity for any settlement. Again, timing is key. Then silence. The sound of heels faded. The hallway returned to its hospital rhythm. Steady beeping, the gurney rolling, someone coughing quietly. I was still sitting, back pressed against the wall. The cold floor drained warmth from my hip. My fingers were numb from gripping the absurd paper shield. The void after the conversation was flooded with broken memories. My house. Winter smelled of stewed chicken. Summer brought lavender through the curtains. Michael's tiny feet running down the hallway. The small crack in the steps I patched with milk glue. I had woven years into a home for my son to always return to. They wanted to tear it away with a few sheets of paper and a seal. I pressed my forehead against the wall to stop my head from spinning. Accident. Come if you want. Click. 4 seconds from Sloane's call echoed like a clock adjusting to the right time. Piece after piece fell into place. I could see the picture emerging, but the world needed something more than intuition. Evidence. Photos, recordings, data, marks. No one would believe the word of a 66-year-old mother if it was just a hunch. Why did Maya force me to hide? Perhaps my appearance was the switch. If I stepped inside, someone in room 412 would finish the job, or the chaos would allow them to legitimize the paperwork. Whatever the scenario, the only answer right now, stay still to listen. Remember to wait. The wind slipped through. The hallway door rattled softly. I counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3, tying myself to the thin thread of calm in my memory. A drawing of the little boy came up, the house too big, the windows too small, the sun taking up half the sky. Turn down the sun, it's too hot. I used to joke. He said, no, more sun, so you won't be cold. I thought I was old enough not to cry over something like that. I was wrong. The sound of fabric shoes stopped in front of room 411, 3 taps, barely audible. Mrs. Brooks? The familiar whisper. I didn't open immediately. I waited for another beat. It's me, Maya. I cracked the door, still clutching the tissue box, as if it were the key to unlocking trust. Maya glanced at me briefly, tired, determined. What did you hear? I nodded, repeating everything I had gathered from the crack in the door. Quick deed transfer, guardianship, amend the will, notary, witnesses, timing. Maya pressed her lips together. I guessed right, she said, her voice tightly concealing emotion. You're not leaving yet. The police need definitive signs. Evidence is on its way. I need you to keep her close, but don't let her touch any line to medication. Keep her close without letting her touch, I repeated, as if learning to walk on a tightrope. Maya nodded. Yes. Do you understand? I took a deep breath, swallowing my trembling. Yes. She placed her warm hand on the back of my hand, a touch that transmitted an unspoken order, strong but wise. Then she left, disappearing into the strip of light. I closed the door, leaned back against the wall once more. Inside me, the anger had changed color, from fiery red to cold blue, with edges, with boundaries. I knew my role wasn't to scream. My job was to remember details, stand in the right place, speak at the right moment. A mother's wrath must not spoil the plan to save her child. I whispered like a vow. They're not waiting for Michael to wake up. They're betting on him never waking up. And I am betting the rest of my life to prove the opposite and keep the home I wove with love, loss, and hope. The harsh truth still stood firm. I had no tangible proof yet, only my ears, my memory, and the words of a nurse willing to risk her career. I, Evelyn Brooks, was the only one who saw the game, but I still had no pieces to flip the table. I looked up at the strip of light under the door, like looking at thin water covering a deep abyss. All right, I said softly, so only I could hear. I will wait. I will listen. And when that door opens, I'll step out. At the right moment. I sat silently in the darkness of the storage room, my hand gripping the tissue box tightly, my chest pounding like an empty drum. The smell of bleach, the rubber scent of medical gloves, and the cold metal scent from the stainless steel carts around me, mixed with the air. All of those sensations now converged into one place. The feeling that I was sitting, waiting for the destruction of a dream I had spent my entire life building. The door to room 412 on the other side of the partition seemed to blur in my mind. In the stillness, I could clearly hear each footstep, the soft squeak of the gurney wheels, and the voices of Sloane and her lawyer echoing like a sentence. Their conversation was no longer about family, work, or relaxing evenings together. It had become a negotiation, a transaction that could change the life of my son, and mine as well. The quick deed transfer is ready. The lawyer's voice rang out, even and smooth like a financial announcement. If Mr. Brooks does not regain capacity, guardianship will default to the family and will record ownership before he can amend the will. Each word, each phrase, felt like a punch to my chest. Quick deed transfer, guardianship, record, amend the will. These words weren't just legal terms. They were deep cuts into my heart, excuses for them to steal everything. Everything I had nurtured over the years, the house, the memories, and my son, who I had brought into this world with all the love I had. Sloane responded with a soft tone but filled with scheming. Good. He hasn't signed this week because he kept saying he was tired. But now, if he doesn't wake up, everything will transfer cleanly. We'll file, and before anyone notices, the title will have changed. Her words sounded like a promise that had been made long ago. She wasn't a grieving wife, not a woman worried about her husband. She was just someone who was secretly laughing in the dark, savoring a victory she believed was already hers. She spoke of Michael as if he were a pawn in her game, something she could sacrifice to achieve her goal. Without a hint of emotion, without a shred of pity, she had decided that my house would belong to her. I gripped the edge of the stainless steel shelf, my heart filled with numbness. I hadn't realized how far I had gone in this mess. I had overlooked the small signs, like the spoon in Michael's smoothie, the times he went to bed early without telling me why. the strange fatigue I never questioned. I wanted a perfect family. I wanted to believe everything would be fine, that Sloane would be a good wife and care for Michael as I had cared for my son. But now, everything had been exposed. She had deceived me, and I had let her do it. He still thinks he's just tired from work, Sloane continued, her voice void of any regret. He kept saying he would sign later, once the work settled down. But now, he doesn't need to wake up. She laughed again, but this time, it wasn't a sweet smile. It was a cold, sharp laugh. I felt the blood in my body freeze. What had she done to Michael? Had she spiked his smoothie? Made him believe he was just exhausted from work? And I had believed it. I had trusted too much, been too naive to see it. She had been planning this for a long time, calculating each step. And I had let her into my home, into my life, and trusted her as part of my family. We'll need to prepare the guardian's signature documents, the lawyer continued, still even-keeled. If Michael can't sign, we'll file right away, following the state statute procedures. I've arranged 2 witnesses and a notary. Expedited service is already in place. Everything will be swift, discreet, and compliant. The lawyer's words were like a death sentence. They didn't just have a plan to transfer ownership. They had prepared every little detail to make everything appear legal. There would be no sign that this was wrong. Everything was arranged professionally and skillfully, like a business negotiation with no emotion involved. She had prepared to take everything I thought was mine, without a shred of conscience, without a single regret. Then it settled, Sloane concluded, as though everything was already decided. I'll take care of everything. The house will be mine, and I'll take care of it. I'll respect his memory. Those words were the final knife thrust deep into my heart. Take care. Respect. She would take care of my house, respect Michael's memory. But I knew she respected nothing. She was exploiting everything. She just wanted it all, and she wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. Rage surged inside me, but a part of me knew that if I didn't stay calm, everything would collapse. I couldn't act recklessly. I needed evidence. I needed to be sure. The door to room 412 creaked open, and the soft sound of fabric shoes entering filled the air. I stood still, not daring to move. I wanted to rush out, confront Sloane, expose everything she had done. But I knew, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to protect Michael. I needed to stay calm. I needed to wait for the right moment. Maya stepped in, her eyes full of determination. She looked at me without needing to say anything. I knew she had heard everything. She had everything she needed. And now, we would not let Sloane win. We have to be very careful, Maya said, her voice soft but resolute. Everything is in place, but we still need to gather more evidence to ensure that nothing will shake. I nodded, my heart feeling lighter. I wasn't alone in this fight. Maya was here. She understood everything, and together, we would defeat Sloane. We wouldn't let her have what she wanted. I took a deep breath, my resolve now as firm as steel. There was no room for hesitation. Sloane could plan everything, could prepare everything. But I was the only one who could stop her. I would do whatever it took to protect my son and my family. Nothing could stop me. I sat still in the storage room, my fingers gripping the tissue box so tightly that they ached. Each breath felt like it had to fight its way through the thick air in this dark room. Sloane's words still echoed in my mind, sharp and clear, as if she had just whispered them into my ear at this very moment. She didn't just betray my son. She had deceived me, our family. All for one thing: money. I remembered the way she spoke about Michael, as if he were nothing more than an object, something that could be taken and sold once it no longer held value. My house, my memories, the years of sweat and tears I had poured into that home were now nothing more than a part of a transaction. A transaction she thought would end without any obstacles. But I knew it wouldn't. It couldn't be like that. Maya stood beside me, her eyes filled with resolve. She wasn't just a colleague in the hospital. She was a friend, an ally. She had seen the signs long ago and had acted quietly, preparing everything we needed to stand firm. We weren't fighting this alone. "We won't let Sloan win, Evelyn," Maya said to me, her voice sharp, unwavering. "We won't let her take what she doesn't deserve." I turned to look at her. In Maya's eyes, I saw the same determination I felt. Although she had witnessed Sloane's ruthlessness and cunning, she never intended to give up. Maya knew we had to fight, and she was ready to stand with me in this battle. "We need evidence, Maya," I said, my voice low but full of resolve. "Only with evidence can we beat her. Nothing but the truth can bring her into the light." Maya nodded, her gaze never leaving mine. "I've prepared everything we need. We have our evidence. The samples from Michael's smoothie, the test results before Sloan started spiking his drinks, the recordings I've made. All of it will be the strongest weapon to bring her down." Maya's words were like a flame, burning away all the fear inside me. The evidence, the details she had quietly gathered over the months, weren't just protection. They were the only path to defeating Sloan and bringing justice to Michael. "We need to act now," I said, standing up, my grip tightening on the tissue box until my knuckles turned white. "Sloan can't keep going like this. She's calculated for too long. It's time to make her pay." Maya didn't hesitate. She was ready. "I've contacted a friend of mine. He's a lawyer specializing in estates and wills. He'll help us get these documents to the proper authorities. We can't let her deceive us any longer." My heart tightened. What we had prepared could be the last chance to expose Sloan, and I wouldn't give her the opportunity again. We left the storage room and walked into the hospital corridor. Though the walls around me were still cold, I felt a growing strength inside. At that moment, I was no longer a helpless mother watching her son suffer. I was a warrior who couldn't stay still while her child was threatened. Maya led me into a small room behind the emergency area. There, I saw a pile of documents and test samples that she had meticulously prepared. Each paper, each drug sample, each recording was a piece of the strategic plan we had set in place to take down Sloan. These documents were solid evidence, the foundation on which we could rewrite the whole story. "These are all the things I've gathered," Maya said, pointing to the stack of papers on the table. "We just need to bring them to light at the right moment. I've contacted a skilled lawyer. He'll help us." I looked at the pile of documents, a strong feeling rising within me. This was the first step in taking back what was mine. It wasn't just property. It wasn't just the house. It was my family. It was justice. It was the truth. "Thank you, Maya," I said, my voice filled with gratitude. "Without you, I don't know what I'd do." Maya looked at me, her gaze softening, but still filled with resolve. "We're allies, and I'll always stand with you, Evelyn." An hour later, we met a lawyer named Audrey Hale, someone Maya had introduced. She was an expert in estates and wills, and most importantly, she could help us use the evidence to bring Sloane into the light. "We've prepared everything," Maya said, as we sat down with Audrey. "We have the recordings of Sloane's call with her lawyer, the drug samples from Michael's smoothie, and the test results. These pieces of evidence will prove everything." Audrey didn't say anything for a moment, quickly flipping through the documents, checking each detail. She was calm, but I could see the determination in her sharp eyes. "With this evidence, we can reach a conclusion very quickly, but we need to act now. Sloane will certainly try to cover everything up. We have to make sure she can't escape." I looked at Audrey, the resolve inside me growing stronger. "We won't stop until she pays. She's deceived us for too long. I won't let her continue." We left Audrey's office with a new sense of purpose. The evidence was prepared. The plan was clear. We no longer had to face Sloane with just assumptions. We could expose every lie she had built over the years. Maya and I were stepping into a fight I knew wouldn't be easy. But I had made up my mind. Sloane would not win. Not as long as I was standing here, not as long as I could still fight. We walked out of the hospital, the late afternoon sun shining through the cracks in the leaves, illuminating the road ahead. My heart felt empowered, and I could feel the strength in each step. "Thank you, Maya," I said, my eyes never leaving her. "We will win." Maya smiled, a strong, determined smile. "For Michael, for you, and for this family, we will win." The door to room 412 opened, and I stepped inside, but not as I had before. The feeling of this room had changed. The dim light from the hallway spilled in, creating shadows in the room. Michael lay there, motionless, with a ventilator and respiratory support keeping him alive. There was no movement from him, only the steady rhythm of the machines, no response from him. And I, Evelyn Brooks, the mother who had spent her life protecting her son, stood there, watching my son as though I were an outsider. This situation was too painful, but I knew I couldn't let my emotions take control. I couldn't let Sloane take everything, and I couldn't let her continue to control Michael's life. Sloane sat by the bed, still holding Michael's hand. She didn't look at me immediately. Her eyes were fixed on his face, as though she were sitting there, tending to a possession, not a worried wife. She cared for him like an object, as though he were something she had the right to control. I stood still for a moment, trying to stay calm, then moved closer to Michael's bed. But I didn't sit down. My gaze never left his face. I looked at the familiar features of my son, but now they seemed cold, frighteningly so. I knew what I had to do. I had to speak, not just to protect Michael, but to deal with the woman sitting in front of me. Finally, Sloane turned and gave a slight smile. She wasn't surprised to see me, as if she had already prepared for this moment. "Evelyn, you're here?" Her voice was soft, gentle, as if she were talking to a friend. "He's still not awake, but I'm sure he will be. We just have to wait a little longer." Her words were light as the wind, but also like a sharp knife stabbing into my heart. She didn't feel worried. There was no unease in her voice, only a confidence that came with calculation. But I knew I wouldn't let her continue like this. I had to be stronger. I had to hold my ground. I stepped gently to the side of the bed, not looking at her, still focused on Michael. "I know," I said, my voice steady. "I'll be here. And when he wakes up, we'll be able to talk about the important things." Sloane looked at me for a moment, then returned to her task, holding Michael's hand. She didn't say anything more, but I knew she was waiting for a reaction from me. Perhaps she wanted to see weakness, worry, but I wouldn't give her that. I couldn't allow myself to be deceived again. A moment of silence stretched on. She still didn't look back at me, her gaze fixed on Michael's face. I knew now was the time for action. I had to ask questions. I had to challenge her. It was time. I couldn't sit still any longer. I took a deep breath, then looked straight into Sloane's eyes. "We need to talk about the house," I began, my voice still calm. But inside I felt like I was holding a sharp knife in my hand. "About everything you're doing." Sloane slowly lifted her head, her eyebrows raising slightly as if surprised by my question. But she quickly regained her composure. "The house? I don't quite understand," she said, her voice tinged with sarcasm. "We already made an agreement. If he doesn't wake up, everything will belong to me." I didn't let her finish, cutting her off decisively. "No, you don't understand, Sloane. That house is not yours. It's mine and Michael's." Her eyes suddenly sharpened. That was a sign she was starting to feel challenged. She took a step back, but still kept her eyes fixed on me. "Evelyn, you still don't get it. If Michael doesn't wake up, I'll be the only one with the right to decide everything. You can't sit here and pretend things are as they were." She had gone too far. Her words weren't advice. They were a statement. She wasn't worried about Michael waking up. She was just waiting for the right moment to take it all. But I wouldn't let her. I couldn't let her continue this game. "You can't decide for him," I replied, my voice beginning to harden. "Michael is the owner of that house, and I will protect it. You have no right to it." Sloane didn't respond immediately. She just looked at me, but her gaze was no longer confident. I had made her uncertain. She had realized that I was no longer the weak mother, waiting for her to make decisions. I had returned, stronger and more determined than ever. A long moment passed before Sloane sneered. "You really think you can stop me, Evelyn? If Michael doesn't wake up, I'll have the right to decide everything. The house, the assets, it will all be mine." Her words cut through the air like a knife, but I didn't let them affect me. "No, you don't understand. I won't let you take everything. That house is not yours. It's Michael's and mine, and I will do whatever it takes to protect it." She stood still for a moment, her eyes still calculating. She was thinking, trying to guess what I would do next. I knew we were just one step away from confrontation, but I wouldn't rush. I had waited too long for this opportunity, and I wouldn't let it slip away. Finally, Sloane turned away without saying another word. She walked out of the room, her eyes never leaving me. I stood there for a long time afterward, still unable to breathe normally. But at least I'd begun to see that this fight wasn't unwinnable. She wasn't as confident as before. She knew I wasn't the weak mother anymore. I turned back to look at Michael once more. I didn't know when he would wake up, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't let her take everything. She could leave, she could mock me, but I wouldn't give in. Never. "Michael, you'll wake up," I whispered, my voice gentle but resolute. "I will protect you. I won't let her harm you anymore." The late afternoon light finally filtered through the hospital window, but inside my heart, there was only darkness. Each passing minute no longer felt simple. Michael lay motionless on the bed, unresponsive, and I could do nothing to change the situation. The sense of helplessness surged like a wave, washing away all hope. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't let everything end like this. Maya stood beside me, her eyes full of resolve and unwavering certainty. She was the only one I could trust right now, and what we had prepared was at a critical juncture. Time was running out. If we didn't act now, there would be no second chance. "Evelyn, we have only 1 hour left," Maya said, her voice cold but determined. "The test results will be in within 30 minutes. If we don't take down Sloane now, we will lose everything. She will certainly take everything if she signs the transfer before the police arrive." I didn't need to say anything more. Every word Maya spoke was like a knife to my heart. I knew exactly what was at stake. I knew that the only thing that could save Michael now was evidence. And we only had a very short window to do everything. If we didn't expose Sloane, everything would end. The house would belong to her, and Michael would never wake up. The tension built with each passing second. Each breath felt like it stretched on forever. "We can't let her continue," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "Maya, are you sure we have enough evidence to expose everything?" Maya nodded, her eyes sharp as a blade. "It's all ready. I've double-checked every drug sample, every test before it was interfered with. We have evidence that Sloane spiked Michael's drinks. She thought we would never find out, but we have enough to bring her down." Maya's words were a great source of motivation, but they also reminded me of the fear I couldn't escape. Sloane was too clever, and she wouldn't give up easily. She knew how to control everything, and I couldn't overlook any detail. If we failed, not just Michael, but my entire family would be destroyed. Maya continued, her gaze unwavering. "This is our only shot. We need to get this evidence to the police and make them see clearly that she's the one causing harm. I've contacted a friend in the police investigation team. If we have enough evidence, they'll act immediately." I nodded, but I couldn't stop thinking about Michael. I looked at him one more time. Though his body still lay there, I felt as if he was very close to me. He might not be able to speak right now, but he was the reason I kept fighting, the reason I couldn't stop searching for justice. "All right," I said, my voice hardening. "We'll do this. If she thinks I'll give up, she's wrong. I won't let Sloane take everything." Maya and I didn't speak another word. We simply looked at each other, knowing exactly what needed to be done next. There was no more time for worry, no more time for hesitation. We were ready. And now, everything would unfold in the next 30 minutes. We quickly left the hospital room, but it felt as though time had been shortened. My steps became hurried, unstoppable. Maya remained beside me, her movements swift but certain. I couldn't afford to be weak now. Everything had gone past its limit, and there was only one way forward: to fight until the end. When we reached the hospital corridor, Maya stopped and turned to look at me, her eyes lighting up. "We won't let her get away. We'll do whatever it takes to make her pay." I looked into Maya's eyes, saying nothing, but feeling like a fire had ignited inside me. I couldn't let Michael, the son I loved, be harmed again. Not by the woman who had deceived us, not by Sloane. I couldn't let her continue controlling our lives. "Maya," I said, my voice slow but filled with determination. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I don't know what I would do." Maya smiled, but it wasn't a smile of relief. It was a confident, resilient smile that I had never seen from her before. "We're a team, Evelyn. We will win." Her words steadied me. Yes, we would fight, and we would win. Not just for Michael, but for justice, for this family. At that moment, Maya's phone rang. She quickly answered, and her voice became even more serious than ever. "Are we ready?" she asked. The voice on the other end responded quickly. "The investigation team is ready. If you have the evidence, we will act immediately." Maya nodded, then hung up, her eyes once again filled with resolve. "We can do this. We can't wait any longer." I couldn't say anything more. Everything had been prepared. It was all set. A plan laid out with precision and decisiveness. Now, there was only one thing left: to act. We headed toward the investigation team's office, where we would hand over all the necessary evidence. It felt like I was stepping into a real battle, not just for Michael, but for fairness, for the truth. Maya led me into the investigation room, and we quickly handed over all the evidence: the drug samples, the test results, and the recording of the conversation between Sloan and her lawyer. Everything had been prepared, and now there was only one thing left: to get this evidence into the hands of those who could help us. "Thank you," I said, gripping Maya's hand. "We've done it." Maya looked at me, her eyes still full of determination. "No, we're not done. But we're very close now." Room 412 felt smaller and suffocating as I stepped inside. Though the light still filtered through the hospital window, inside my heart, there was no brightness. Michael lay there, motionless, without any response. His breath still relied on the machines, a testament to my helplessness over the past days. But today, I couldn't continue feeling like this. I couldn't let Sloan win. I couldn't let her destroy everything we had built. Maya stood beside me, silent, but I could feel the strength in every movement of hers. She knew. I knew. And we both understood that time was running out. Sloan hadn't given up. She was still there, holding control over what she thought was hers. But I wouldn't let her continue manipulating everything. Maya looked at me, her gaze sharp. "We need to act now, Evelyn. If she thinks she can win, we need to make her know that it's over." I nodded, feeling a wave of tension rise inside me. But I knew Maya was right. Everything had been prepared, and now was the time to strike. After Maya contacted the investigation team, we began to plan the next steps in detail. Every move had to be calculated carefully. No room for error. Sloan was a tough opponent. She was too smart, too skilled at deception. She thought she had everything under control, but we had enough evidence to expose her. "We have to create a scenario that Sloan can't refuse," Maya said, her face not showing a trace of worry. "She has to think we've given up, that everything is done. When she believes that, that's when we'll strike." I looked at Maya, sensing the certainty in her voice. Although I wasn't entirely at ease, I knew this was our only chance. Sloan wouldn't give up easily. She would fight to the end, but I couldn't let her continue to control my life and Michael's. The next step in our plan was to meet with Sloan's lawyer. Maya had set up a meeting with him, someone Sloan probably thought was an ally in this battle. But I knew it was just another part of our strategy. If we could deceive Sloan into thinking everything was over, she would walk right into the trap, and we would launch our attack. "She won't suspect that we're ready," Maya said as we walked out of the hospital and into the parked car. "Our plan has to be flawless. Just when she thinks she's won, we'll turn the tables." I looked out the car window, taking a deep breath. The anxiety still clung to me, but I couldn't let it overwhelm me. Everything had gone too far. and we couldn't stop now. When we arrived at the lawyer's office, the tension in the air was palpable. Maya went in first, and I lingered outside for a moment to collect myself. I didn't know when everything would change, but I knew if we didn't act now, I would lose everything. Maya turned back to look at me, her eyes full of confidence. Sloan won't accept defeat easily, but she won't have any way out once we present all the evidence. I took a deep breath and walked in with Maya. Inside the lawyer's office, the atmosphere was cold and serious, like an interrogation room. Sloane's lawyer sat there, his face not particularly pleased, but he didn't appear overly worried. Perhaps he thought we wouldn't have enough evidence to fight. But I knew we had everything we needed. "Thank you for taking the time," Maya said, shaking the lawyer's hand. "We have some important information we'd like to share regarding this case." The lawyer didn't say anything right away, simply nodded and listened. Maya began to present the evidence we had gathered. She wasn't rushing. Every word was spoken carefully, preparing for what was to come. I didn't say anything, just stood quietly beside Maya, feeling the tension in the air. Everything was going according to plan. When Maya presented the evidence and the recording of the conversation between Sloane and her lawyer, the lawyer's expression began to change. From confidence, he shifted to concern. I could clearly see the uncertainty in his eyes. But there was nothing he could do now. Like Sloane, he wouldn't be able to escape the consequences of his actions. When the meeting ended, the lawyer asked for more time to discuss things with Sloane. But I knew her time was up. We wouldn't give her the chance to back out. As we returned to the car, Maya said, her voice full of resolve, "She can't get away now. If she thinks there's a way out, we have to make her face the truth." I nodded. Everything seemed ready. And now, all we could do was wait for the results. Sloane had no escape. Everything had gone too far. Back at the hospital, I stood outside room 412, where Michael still lay. The fear still clung to me, but I couldn't let it stop me. Now was the time to act. If Sloane thought she had won, she would never see our plan coming. A team of police entered the room, preparing for the arrest. The door to the room opened, and Sloane stepped in, unaware that everything had changed. She still thought she was in control of everything. But Maya and I were ready. The police moved in, and immediately they acted. The police approached, and without hesitation, they declared, "Sloane, you are under arrest for suspected aggravated assault and intentional harm to the victim." Sloane turned around, not believing what she had just heard. She opened her mouth to react, but no words came out. The officers had already handcuffed her, and she could do nothing more. She was dragged out of the room, her eyes still fixed on me, but there was nothing left to do. She had lost. When the door closed behind her, I didn't feel the triumph I had expected. I looked at Michael, my heart tightening. Would he wake up? Could I save him before it was too late? But at least I knew I had done everything I could to protect him, to protect this family. Everything was silent. The soft breeze of the afternoon slipped through the window, but inside me, there was no sense of lightness. I stood in the hospital corridor, feeling waves of exhaustion and anxiety rise within me. Everything had happened so quickly. Sloane had been arrested. But was that really a victory? Had I truly regained everything? The police had completed their task. Sloane was taken to the holding cell and would face serious charges. I felt a slight relief. But my fear for Michael was unrelenting. He still lay there in room 412, motionless, with only machines and ventilators keeping him alive. Those signs were enough to remind me that we hadn't won yet, even though Sloane had been exposed. Maya stood next to me, her gaze still fixed on the hospital door. She said nothing, but I could sense what she was thinking. For so long, Maya and I had faced unimaginable challenges together. But this time, it wasn't just Sloane that worried me. Michael was the only thing on my mind. "Evelyn," Maya began, her voice softening. "Sloane's been arrested. She can't get away now. But Michael, I looked into Maya's eyes and we both understood. Everything had gone too far. What we had done until now was to gain just one thing: a chance for Michael to live. And right now, that hope was as fragile as a thin thread. "He'll wake up, won't he, Maya?" I asked, my voice catching. Maya didn't answer right away. She placed her hand gently on my shoulder, a soft touch, but one full of strength. Her eyes glimmered, but it seemed like she was holding back her own emotions. "We've done everything we could, Evelyn," she said. "And there will be a positive outcome. Michael won't give up." I didn't know whether Maya's words were the truth or just comforting words when we had nothing else to say. But still, I had to believe them. Michael had fought for his whole life, and I wouldn't let him fail in this fight. The doctor entered the room, and I sensed a shift in the air. He looked more anxious than usual, his face tense, his hands trembling as he held Michael's medical file. He looked at me, and I could see the seriousness in his eyes. "Evelyn," he began, his voice low and grim. "Michael's condition is still critical. Despite everything we've done, his vitals are still unstable." My hair stood on end, a numbness slowly spreading through my body. I looked at the doctor but couldn't speak. The suffocating feeling overwhelmed me. Though I had braced myself for anything, this was too much to bear. The doctor continued, and each word felt like a knife in my heart. "If his condition doesn't improve in the next few hours, we'll have to consider other options. But there are no guarantees." I froze, the feeling that everything was falling apart. I had done everything, but was it enough? Michael still hadn't woken up, and now the doctors weren't sure about his chances of survival. Wanted to protest, to rush in and do something, but all I could do was stand there, powerless. Maya saw the tension in me. She stepped closer, taking my hand and holding it firmly. "Evelyn, we can't give up. Michael is not a quitter, and neither are we. He will wake up. I believe that." I looked into Maya's eyes, but deep inside, I couldn't fully believe what I was hearing. Would Michael wake up? Could he survive this critical condition? I didn't know, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't let myself collapse. Not now, not when Michael was still here, fighting. An hour passed, then another, but Michael still showed no signs of recovery. The despair rose within me again. The tubes and machines surrounding him felt like chains that couldn't be undone. Michael still lay there, unchanged, with only the beeping of the machines marking his life. Suddenly, Michael's ventilator emitted an unusual beep, followed by a prolonged sound. My heart stopped. "No, it can't be," I whispered, staring at the readings. The doctor rushed into the room, but I felt everything slipping away inside me. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice no longer strong. We need to initiate emergency procedures again. His vitals are plummeting. He's going into shock, and his heart and lungs are not functioning properly." A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had braced myself for anything, but this was too much. Maya stood next to me, her eyes full of concern. "No, Evelyn, he can't give up. We won't let him go." The doctor and medical team began to race against time. Their movements were quick and efficient. But inside, I was consumed with panic. Could it be that Michael was too weak to fight anymore? The feeling of suffocation slowly eased as the ventilator's beeping became more steady. The medical team had completed the emergency procedure. They stepped back, and I heard a soft sigh of relief from one of the doctors. "He's through the worst of it, but we still need to monitor him closely." I stood there, tears in my eyes, my heart pounding in my chest. Michael had made it through the worst. I didn't know if he would wake up immediately, but a small spark of hope still glimmered inside me. We waited a little longer. Everything gradually calmed down. Time, though incredibly important, remained unpredictable. But I knew one thing. No matter what, I wouldn't give up on Michael. I had fought to protect him, and I would continue fighting until he woke up. At that moment, Maya placed her hand on my shoulder again, and I knew she had always been here, by my side throughout this journey. "We've done the right thing," Maya whispered. Maybe we've won," I said. And this time, I truly believed the words I spoke. The room in 412 seemed to stop moving. The sounds of the machines, the steady beeping of the ventilator, seemed to echo only in my head. Time felt like it had come to a halt as I stared at Michael's motionless body, still holding on to life. My heart was filled with worry, but there was also a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't leave the room, couldn't let go of his hand. Each minute, each second felt like an unending challenge. Maya stood next to me, her gaze filled with concern, yet also full of determination. She had stood by my side since Michael was still conscious, and not once had she left me. The feeling that I wasn't alone in this fight kept me grounded. But no one could change the reality. Michael was fighting for his life, and there was nothing I could do but pray. "Evelyn," Maya began, her voice gentle yet firm. "Justice has been served. Sloan has been arrested, but our mission isn't over. Michael, he needs time." I nodded but couldn't find the words to speak. The words, "needs time," felt like a new pain, pushing me into the tension and unease I couldn't shake. Michael had fought so hard to overcome the danger, but would he wake up? Had everything I had done been enough to help him win? It had been 3 days since Michael's condition stabilized. Every day the doctors checked on him, and each time I held my breath, waiting for the results. His vital signs had finally begun to stabilize. However, it was still too early to say if he had fully overcome the danger. "Evelyn, Michael's condition is showing positive signs," the doctor said during a morning check. "We see stability in his vital signs. However, he still needs to be monitored closely. Prepare yourself. It will take time for him to fully recover." The doctor's words were both a shock and a glimmer of hope. My heart tightened when he said that Michael would need time to fully recover. But at least he had made it through the worst. It was a miracle, a second chance that I couldn't afford to miss. I sat quietly by Michael's bed, holding his hand tightly. Over the past days, I hadn't left his side, but this time, I felt a small change. I couldn't explain it, but there was a warm feeling, a stronger connection forming inside me. Was he hearing me? Was he starting to wake up? The room became eerily silent. The stillness was only broken by the steady beeping of the ventilator. I wondered if Michael could hear me, if he could feel my presence. Those long nights when I sat beside him, whispering words of love, promises I hadn't been able to fulfill before. Could he sense that I was still here, ready to do anything for him? As I looked at Michael, I saw an unusual stillness. The equipment kept functioning, but there was a strange sensation, as if he was responding to me. A shiver ran down my spine. "Michael?" I whispered, not quite believing what I had just felt. Suddenly, a faint sound came from the ventilator. A long, irregular beep that lasted a few seconds before falling silent. My heart raced. "No, it can't be," I muttered, staring at the readings. The doctor rushed into the room, but I felt like everything was slipping away inside me. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice barely strong enough. We need to restart the emergency procedures. His vitals are dropping rapidly. He's going into shock, and his heart and lungs aren't functioning properly." A cold shiver ran down my spine. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had braced myself for anything, but this was too much to bear. Maya stood right next to me, her eyes full of concern. "No, Evelyn. He can't give up. We won't let him go." The doctor and medical team began to race against time. Their movements were quick and precise, but inside, I was overwhelmed with panic. Could it be that Michael was too weak to fight anymore? The feeling of suffocation gradually eased as the ventilator's beeping became more regular. The doctors had completed the emergency procedure. They stepped back, and I heard a soft sigh of relief from one of the doctors. "He's out of immediate danger, but we still need to monitor him closely." I stood there, tears in my eyes, my heart pounding in my chest. Michael had made it through the worst. I didn't know if he would wake up immediately, but a small spark of hope still flickered inside me. The next day, the doctor continued to check Michael's condition. This time, he even smiled when looking at the readings. "We see very positive signs," the doctor said. "His heart and lung numbers have stabilized. Michael is beginning to recover. However, he still needs more time and special care." I couldn't express what I was feeling at that moment. All the worry, all the fear inside me seemed to dissipate. Michael hadn't given up, and neither would I. I had fought for him, for this family, and now we had a chance to overcome it all together. Time continued to pass. Each day, Michael showed small signs of recovery. The doctors started adjusting his treatment plan, and I could feel the change in his body. He wasn't awake yet, but every passing day, I felt like we were getting closer to a miracle. Maya and I stood by Michael's bed, the soft light from the window casting shadows on his face, and I could see the slight movements in his body. That was an important sign. Michael was slowly waking up. "Maya?" I whispered, my voice lowering with gratitude. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I don't know what I would have done." Maya didn't respond immediately, just looked at me with a soft smile. "We did the right thing, Evelyn. He'll wake up, and we'll all be reunited." That was the moment I knew this fight wasn't over, but I also knew we had won a chance. Michael would wake up, and we would never give up. When he wakes up, we will continue fighting, not just for him, but for this family, for everything we've been through. The feeling I have right now is beyond words. Michael has woken up, but it wasn't the sudden awakening I had hoped for. He opened his eyes slowly, as if unable to believe my presence. A faint light appeared in his eyes, and gradually, a sense of awareness returned. His fingers moved slightly, and then he gently grasped my hand. That was the first sign. Though it was just a small reaction, it was enough to make my heart race. "Michael," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You're awake? I'm here. I won't leave you." Michael didn't say anything, but his eyes spoke volumes. In that moment, I needed nothing more. Even though he couldn't speak, even though his body was still weak, he had woken up, and I had won the battle for him. Our lives were beginning again from this point. The doctor entered just after I noticed Michael's signs of recovery. He looked at the medical readings, then turned to me, his face serious, but with a faint smile. "Michael's condition is stable. His heart and lung readings have stopped declining. Though we can't confirm anything yet, we're optimistic. He still needs time to fully recover, but we believe he will pull through." At that moment, I felt strength from the doctor's words. I no longer had to worry about the numbers on the machines. Michael was still here, and he was regaining strength. A hope I had never felt so brightly before was now shining within me. Maya entered the room right after the doctor left. She looked at Michael, then turned back to look at me. "Evelyn, we did it," she said, her voice trembling. "We've protected our family." I didn't say anything, just looked at Maya. Her words weren't only for me, they were encouragement for herself too. She had been with me through this arduous journey. We had faced challenges, storms that had no clear end. But now, with Michael's recovery, everything seemed to be falling into place. The next day, Michael was able to sit up, though only for a few brief minutes. I sat next to his bed, looking at him with a sense of completeness I had never felt before. He didn't speak, but his eyes no longer carried the confusion they once did. He looked at me, gave a faint smile, and I knew that was the final sign of awareness, a silent thank you. "Michael," I whispered, "you've been so strong. I'm so proud of you." This time, he moved his hand, then gently grasped mine. The feeling was as if he wanted to tell me that he had fought enough, and now he was ready to rise, no matter how slow it might be. I couldn't contain my emotions. All the patience, all the efforts had paid off. In the following days, Michael's condition continued to improve. The doctors allowed him to start eating liquid food, and I could see the positive signs in his body. However, even though I saw him getting stronger, my heart couldn't rest completely. My whole life had been tied to Michael, and I had lost so much to now sit beside him, watching him fight between life and death. I couldn't let myself give up when he needed me the most. One day, when the doctor came to check on Michael, he allowed Maya and me to take him out of the room for a while. This was the first time since his awakening that Michael was able to leave the bed. We pushed him down the hallway, under the care of the medical team. Although every step he took was slow, he still made the effort, as if he was regaining control of his life. When we returned to the room, Maya said, "Evelyn, seeing him walk like that, I can't even describe the emotions I'm feeling. He fought like a warrior." I didn't answer immediately, just looked at Michael. He still couldn't speak, but I could see the hope in his eyes. He was regaining his strength. And I knew, no matter how difficult things became, we would always fight together. In the weeks that followed, Michael continued to recover. The doctors allowed him to participate in physical therapy to strengthen his muscles and health. Each day, I witnessed the change, little by little, in him. From being unable to move, he could now move on his own, though very slowly. But it was a clear sign of recovery. A month later, when Michael could sit up firmly in a chair, Maya and I sat beside him, feeling the change in the atmosphere. Michael had returned to us, though he still couldn't fully function as he had before. We had what mattered most. He was alive, and he was starting over. "Thank you, Mom," Michael said, his voice still weak, but I could feel the strength in his words. "I don't know how to thank you. You did everything so I could survive." I looked at him, unable to hold back the tears anymore. "You are everything to me. I can't live without you. I will always be here, by your side." But while we rejoiced in Michael's recovery, I couldn't forget about Sloane. Even though she had been arrested, I knew that justice wasn't fully served. I couldn't let her escape punishment. Sloane had destroyed too many lives, and I wouldn't stop until she paid for what she had done. Maya looked at me, knowing what was on my mind. "Evelyn, we won't stop. She will pay. Michael has overcome the crisis, but we also need to make sure the truth is exposed." I nodded, my eyes filled with determination. "We can't let her deceive anyone anymore, Maya. This can't end here." Preparations for Sloane's trial had begun. Maya and I, along with the legal team, had gathered enough evidence to charge her. We not only had the recording of Sloane's conversation with her lawyer, but also testimonies from witnesses and documents, proving that she had been poisoning Michael for months. Every day, Maya and I spent time preparing for the trial. But deep inside, I couldn't shake the worry. Sloane was a deceiver, and she wouldn't give up easily. However, this time, I knew we were ready to bring her into the light. Finally, the trial began. I sat next to Maya, and we both looked at Sloane, who was sitting on the defendant's bench. She no longer carried the confident look she once had. Her eyes were full of anger and disdain, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I had prepared enough. Sloane would pay for what she had done. In the end, all the efforts, all the pain, and the sleepless nights were truly worth it. The truth has been revealed, and justice has found its light. But it wasn't revenge, it was rebirth. A rebirth not only of the body, but also of the deep wounds within the soul. Michael didn't just defeat illness, he triumphed over the belief in love and the resilience of the human spirit. Evelyn, the mother who once stood on the edge of despair, has not only saved her son, but has also found peace within herself. For sometimes, life is not about grand victories, but the small moments where love and patience conquer all. And after all, have we truly learned anything from these tragedies? Is forgiveness the first step to healing? Or is it only when we face pain that we truly understand the power within ourselves? We'd love to hear your thoughts under this video. We want to know your story, the emotions you felt as you read this one. And if you feel that you found something truly meaningful, share it with someone you love. They deserve to know that in this world, no matter how many storms there are, love is always the one thing strong enough to guide us to the end of the road. Thank you for staying with us. Let these stories help you find strength when you need it the most.